Sveiki, čia tinklalaidė Menofestacijos ir šiandien kalbinsiu jaunąjį latvių režisierių Artūrs Zeps.
Hi Artūrs, thank you for your time. I first of all want to congratulate you on winning Silver Anikę for your movie Glitch.
Thank you so much.
What is your impressions of the festival GoDebut?
I really enjoyed it. I'm a little bit sorry that, not a little bit, I'm sorry that I didn't enjoy, I wasn't there for all of the festival. I kind of arrived on a Saturday mainly and quite late. I wasn't able to get there for the opening. But as much as I was there, yeah, it was a lovely experience. I really loved that they made workshops.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed the workshop with Riho about documentary storytelling, and I think it's very useful.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever created documentaries yourself?
Did once, yeah, while studying in school. Wasn't a good experience. The only review I got from the teacher was that there was absolutely no directorial. You couldn't feel that director was being there.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So it wasn't a good documentary, but I'm hoping to fix it. So yeah.
Of course, maybe you will get new ideas from your experiences in festivals.
Yeah, definitely. And this is why the workshops were so useful, because I never paid a lot of attention to documentary, like screenwriting and like creating the narrative and storytelling. So it was useful. And you kind of, the fun thing is that you approach it almost like a narrative film, like a feature film, not just documenting.
How would you compare Latvian movies to Lithuanian and other European movies that you saw in festival?
I think quite similar. I mean, I think we're very close culturally and in an approach. So yeah, like brothering states.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't say there's a huge difference. And I think this goes for most Europe. I think it's more you can compare maybe with the further into East, it goes different. But also right now, I think with the interconnectedness of the world, I think there's not regions anymore that are different in filmmaking.
Your short film Glitch tells about dystopian future. Maybe Corona was your inspiration, maybe the isolation, quarantine, or something else.
No, unfortunately, because no, I'm happy that the themes kind of connect even now, but I started writing it before the Corona, so Corona was just a happy accident that made it more
happy.
Happy accident, yeah. So I think themes, I got inspiration more from just the internet and social media. You know, because I think in science fiction, you always kind of look at present and try to guess how the future might turn. And my movie is about simulated realities and about how is there a difference between living in a real reality and a simulated one. And a lot of people might think that simulation is something far away in the future. Yeah, something very high tech. But I think in the same way, even like browsing the internet or being in social medias, you already are experiencing sort of a simulation, because you can spend like 3-4 hours on the internet, 6 hours on the internet, and you're staying in one place, but your mind kind of goes, it travels. You communicate with people, you see places, you find new information. So it's not you're static, but very active at the same time. And that was the main inspiration for Glitch.
And it's sort of reality now because we have metaverse by Facebook.
Yeah. Which makes it even more topical. And I don't know if it's scary. I think it's just kind of the way the technology advances and the world advances, and it's basically the same thing as the internet, only you have a different interface and you interact with it a little bit more immersive. If it's for better or for worse, I think it's not for worse. It's the same like as any instrument. Like it depends on how you use it, I guess, in the end. But I think it makes the reality more fragmented. Like also, if it's going to be similar to social media, we already like have different information bubbles, and then afterwards you're going to be in different metaverse bubbles. And even though we're living in one reality, each one is experiencing like their own version of it.
Were you always interested in science fiction themes?
I think so, yeah. I really like science fiction and fantasy as a genre in films and in literature, because it just creates this magical different reality. And this is kind of how I got interested, and what I find most romantic about cinema or about books is this escapism from reality. Like in a sense that especially those kind of genres give you this escape for an hour or 3 hours or 1.5 hours to a different reality, to a different world, which often mirrors the present reality. But that's the fun aspect of it. So yeah, it started with the literature and then it went into movies. Yeah.
And which exact books and movies inspired your interest?
All together or with the film?
All together.
Altogether, a lot. Like it starts with if we talk fantasy, then The Hobbit was one of the first like childhood books I read, and I didn't really know that it was connected to Lord of the Rings, and only later on. So those are basic answers. Dune as a science fiction series. Also, it's a book I try to reread every year, every 2 years, because I find it inspiring. Let me think. Philip K. Dick novels and short stories, I think, are amazing for any person interested in science fiction. Isaac Asimov, like all of it. I think also one of the first literature I got was my grandma got me like these tomes of Jules Verne and H.G. Wells. So those were just the kind of the first books I was exposed to, and then it kind of grew the interest from that.
Do you like the newer stuff like Black Mirror or Blade Runner?
Yeah, of course, definitely. That's the thing with I think with sci-fi and fantasy, that there's a lot of it, but at the same time, it's a very kind of a limited genre. So every new science fiction film, every new fantasy series is a little celebration. It's an event. You're like, yes, there's something more, because I honestly, and I don't mean to be arrogant, but I'm honestly scared that at one point I will run out of like fantasy and science fiction films to watch. Maybe it's going to be a good thing. I don't know. Maybe then I will watch something else. But of course, yeah, I think Black Mirror is an awesome series, mainly because it gives you like these short stories, short imaginings of very mundane science fiction, which I think is an interesting genre. It's not all of the episodes, but a lot of episodes show you futures that are not that different from our present, our reality. Like the technological advancement is not something big and magical. It's not like spaceships and time travel, but it's like, for example, chip you have in your brain that lets you see your memories. And it doesn't make a big difference in the reality you experience, and it just kind of talks about this one theme. And I think it's again a very interesting science fiction subgenre, something that I would love to write in also, like the type of stories like in Black Mirror, or for example the movie Her. which also you see a future, but the future is very kind of simple.
Which is funny because in Black Mirror, a first episode was about a prime minister, a blackmail to fornicate with pig, and in reality, prime minister in England, there was gossip that he had to do that in his school years. So it's funny because it talks about the reality we actually live in, but it's exaggerated.
And that's the cool thing. That's what interests me right now, I guess, more. Yeah.
While you are creating your script, do you try to isolate yourself from the other information from other movies to not accidentally copy?
No. I will try. I will maybe try it at some point, because again, I'm not that experienced to even talk about the process. I don't really have a process yet. I'm still searching for it. But with Glitch and with other works I did, I usually spend at least I don't know, a month or some time actually immersing myself in as much of films and books that are already created about this theme, and basically as inspiration and as to see what is already done and how was it done, what kind of problems did I see with it. Because I think in the end, of course, I guess originality is important, but I think it's nearly impossible to be completely original, and I don't think it's my task. I think in the end it's about execution, because you and me, we can take the same, for example, premise, the same idea, but in the end our executions are going to be different, and this is what's going to make it unique. And because I didn't want to copy something by accident, I'd rather copy something intentionally, you know? Yeah.
Are there any good Latvian science fiction writers you would like to ekranize and show in the movies, their books?
I don't want to say no, because mostly I don't know. I haven't run across any. Because it's not really popular. There isn't, like if you say Latvia and science fiction, at least in my information bubble, there isn't one person that pops out like, this guy or that guy. I think it's a genre in literature and in film that isn't really explored a lot. But right now, actually, you inspired me to search. Maybe there are some Lithuanian science fiction authors that should be
there is trying to do something like, there was this short story last day about app that tells everyone when we're gonna die, and one family knows that their son is going to die today, and we are trying to make it special, but he gets angry, nervous, because we are just pushing him to do special things that day. And like you said, it's mundane, but it's still fantasy and escapism. Yeah,
it's very, very nice. So maybe but I think it goes for, again, we're neighboring countries, and I think that like in literature you can still write fantasy and science fiction, because you don't need any you don't need more budget or anything to write science fiction. It's on paper, but there's also not enough films. And I think actually this kind of a mundane science fiction is a good kind of a path to take to film science fiction in the Baltics, because it's something you can do without a lot of extra special effects. Like it's still very conceptual.
Especially dystopian movies.
Yeah. In Latvia, I think Latvia right now is perfect for shooting dystopian movies. There's a lot of abandoned factories, like big manufacturers, and which really have this dystopian post-apocalyptic vibe to it. And this is actually one of the reasons why Glitch was made the way it was made, just because we had these factories to shoot in.
So the place inspired you the most, maybe? Yes.
Also, yeah, because I think this is also one of the themes. If at some point we are able to create this metaverse and you have an option to live in a simulated reality, which is going to be like more colorful and more fun and more exciting. And if people move to these meta virtual realities, then the idea was that the reality itself will start to decay. It's going to start to become abandoned. And I think it's the same with the factories are kind of a monument to it, because every time you pass one, you can imagine that like only, I don't know, like 30 years ago, it was bustling with energy and with people, and it was the factories were the future. It was inspiration for the future. It was the places where people work together to create stuff. It was kind of a monument to progress. And now the progress has switched from physical factories to information technologies. And suddenly all of these huge behemoths are just left there kind of rotting. So
I remember a funny thing that the BBC show Chernobyl was filmed in Lithuania.
Yeah, exactly. Because we still have these post-Soviet buildings, a huge one, which are often left empty, and it's a perfect place for shooting stuff.
And now young people in Western Europe has this aesthetic called Doomer aesthetic, which we love the old Soviet buildings, the brutal architecture, which is funny.
Exactly.
Because,
it's funny because it's the reality for us. We're living in this Doomer aesthetic every day without even knowing it's a Doomer aesthetic, and so that's kind of funny.
What made you pursue filmmaking?
It kind of went in steps. I started pursuing filmmaking, like, I guess 3 years ago, maybe 4. It was kind of the first idea I had as to what to do after high school. It was the first choice to go to film school, but I was never in a very kind of creative household. So all of my relatives, I wasn't that much interested in the kind of a film industry. It was just like an idea. I like movies. Maybe I should study movies, and it's kind of not the how do you say? I'm not proud about it that I was so easily discouraged, but basically at that point, all of my family was like, "What you gonna do with the film degree?" And I was like, I guess, it makes sense. So I went into media and journalism and advertising, that kind of a thing. And then after I tried my hand in media and advertising and journalism, and I didn't really enjoy any of that, I started kind of just thinking to myself, what is something constant that I'm always interested in? You know, what is something that I find true to myself, and what would I like to do even like without being paid for it or something? And I found that, one thing that I do constantly is watch a lot of films and think about films, and I'm just kind of naturally interested in it. So I think maybe it's not the best reason to pursue filmmaking, but it was a reason enough for me. So then I went and started working on film sets, and after that went to study.
What is the hardest thing about movie making? You have mentioned budget. What are the problems? Have you experienced?
And I think budget and time is always a problem. Whatever genre you will do, you will always find yourself with not enough time and not enough money. But I think the biggest challenge in filmmaking is how do you call it? I think it's especially in directing, maybe not film. It's kind of a self-confidence type of thing, because I think a lot of creative people have this kind of imposter syndrome, and it's something I especially feel a lot, especially as a new director, because you kind of just come to a set, there's 10 to 15 people in different departments working, and you suddenly just put yourself in the place of a person who's going to say like, oh yeah, we're going to do it like this and like that. And if somebody would ask you, okay, why, you might have an idea, but at the same time, you always have to live with the notion that you just kind of put yourself there. Nobody said like, Artūrs, you should direct this. And yeah, you decide it on your own, you find all these people, and then you kind of start directing them. But it's not based on anything. And I think you start to feel confident only when you have more and more projects that you have made successfully. And then you kind of start feeling okay with that. So yeah, the challenge is, at least for me, is to completely kind of trust your gut and trust your instinct and just go with it. And yeah.
Which filmmaker has influenced you the most to find your inner voice?
Yeah, I'm still searching for my inner voice, but I think at this point, every film, and I think it applies not just to me, but to everyone, every film kind of influences you. And the more you do films, the more you think about filmmaking, the more you can find that each movie has something to offer. You start watching movies differently. You don't watch movies just to escape and just to enjoy them, but you're always kind of in the back of your mind analyzing and thinking what you can, again, learn from this film. But the first ones, I think, were the Coen Brothers. And again, the influence was just at the level that I really enjoyed their movies. I enjoyed the versatility in genres and kind of in themes, and how across like multiple different genres, because Coens, they do comedies and thrillers and noirs and crime films, and they still have a certain style, and you can always kind of recognize a Coen Brothers movie. And so it's not connected to a genre, it's connected to a filmmaker. And I was kind of just inspired to see, to try to find out and decode what makes a Coen film. But again, the inspiration was mostly just that you see, they have a very strong vision, and this kind of inspires you to think about, okay, what's going to be my signature that can be found all over across. No idea yet.
If you got an opportunity to remake some classical science fiction movie, which one would you choose?
This is a very kind of a difficult question, because I think altogether I'm kind of against remaking movies. It doesn't matter if they're good or bad, because it's already made. And it's difficult to answer, because you shouldn't really remake a good movie. So I can't name just the movie I like. But with science fiction, especially, a lot of bad science fiction is so bad it's good. So if you remake it in a more good way, it kind of loses the charm. But just to answer, I think I would love to try and remake, there's a film called Lawnmower Man. I don't really remember the director. I can try and find it, but it's 90s sci-fi horror, like 1992, directed by Brett Leonard. And it's a story about the scientist who builds this machine that through virtual reality and simulations can advance intelligence. And he takes this machine kind of home, I think. And at home, he has this handyman who mows his lawn, and who is slightly intellectually challenged. I guess that would be a proper. He has a very low IQ, and the scientist uses this machine to kind of make him super smart. And it's a silly film. In the end, the lawnmower man becomes evil and needs to be stopped, but it has very fun 90s visual effects, like those very old school computer graphics with which they create virtual realities that have like very sharp edges. And you should definitely see it, just because, and it's bad, it looks silly, it's funny, but at the same time, it's awesome to look at it and see that in the 90s, they kind of tried to make something new, something not seen before in movies, and they really use those graphics to the max, and that makes that film charming. if I would remake that film, that would be something I would love to capture, to kind of also try to use modern technologies almost in a silly way, but to create a very kind of a special visual effect, visual environment. But yeah.
And do you have any advice for young filmmakers out there?
Again, I'm a young filmmaker myself, so I don't really have a place to give advice to anyone. But one of the most important kind of lessons I learned myself is, again, to trust your instinct and to trust your gut. And it's a complicated thing, in a sense that filmmaking is a team sport. There's a lot of departments that all work together, and in each department you have a creative person that helps you with your vision. But if you have, and you should listen to those people, definitely, but if you have a gut feeling about this one scene or this one thing, and everyone tells you, no, it's difficult, it's not going to look good or something, but you still feel it like somewhere inside that it will work, then you should definitely try to make it work. And if you succeed, awesome, you trusted your gut. Now you're going to trust your instincts more, and you had a good kind of a thing in the end. And if it fails, well, at least you know that you tried it, and you know that you're kind of responsible for the failure, but you can try to recognize why. And the worst thing is if you put your gut feeling away and you just listen to someone else, okay, we'll do that way. And in the end, you will always, like, especially if it fails, you will sit and think that, if only I would do it the other way, maybe then it would work. So I think it's important to fail, and it's important to fail kind of with your own gut feelings and instincts, because that's the only way to kind of make them better.
Can you tell me more about your upcoming projects?
Right now, I'm writing a TV show, hoping to produce it. But it's very, I want to make something very simple and not science fiction at all, because again, I spent all of my school years trying to make science fiction, and now I just want to make this kind of a situational comedy, dramedy about like a late growing up, about this because I'm turning 30 soon, and it's a, I think, weird experience, because it seems like a big number for you, like, oh my God, it's going to be the 30 the next decade. And you kind of start looking back on your life and thinking, okay, what kind of growing up goals you have achieved. So I want to make a TV show about a similar theme, about like a person just recounting, is he a grown up yet?
Interesting. I will hope we will see that somewhere someday.
Hopefully.
So thank you for answers, and good luck.
Thank you. Bye.